All right, guys, before we get into it today, if you are not signed up for the Supwell running app, make sure to do that. It's $1 per month. We have the best buy, sell, and trade marketplace out there. We have a bunch of different types of shoes and a bunch of different sizes. We have awesome inventory. We have race shoes. There's just an SC Elite V4 posted. Awesome deal. We got big sizes. We got a lot of size 14 inventory on there. We have all the standard sizes. And we also have the Hobby Jogger forums where you can go celebrate your successes. You can ask any questions about training issues that come up, and you can join the best community of hobby joggers out there. So $1 per month, Supwell app, link is in the description below. All right, so it is starting to come down a little bit. Let's see how much we could do here before the rain really takes me out. But Glycerin Max here in my men's 10.5. This is entering the segment with our good old friend here, Asics Superblast, and this is the Asics Superblast original. I do not have the 2 yet. People are getting legitimately angry with me because I have not tested the 2. The thing is, I bought the 2 as soon as it was available on Running Warehouse, and guess what? They have not shipped it out yet, so it is not my fault that I do not have the Superblast 2. But this is a shoe that pioneered high stack, versatile, protective, maybe fast max cushion shoes. It showed that max cushion isn't all just about cushion and comfort. It's not all about coddling the foot. You can have some fast pep. You can give the zing of a plated shoe or a race shoe without the harshness and the discomfort. And that's why a lot of people like the Superblast, because it's maybe a touch more comfortable than a race shoe and more versatile. So Brooks doesn't have a head-to-head Superblast competitor. And over the past few years here, or few months, we've seen a lot of brands unleash big Superblast competitors, both plated and non-plated, that are really giving them a run for their money here. So I'm actually going to pop the camera up. We made it, 30 seconds up here? So yeah, lots of brands are coming for the Superblast. Hoka has done the best Superblast competitor this year. This is the Skyward X, and it's a little bit heavier, or a lot bit heavier than the Superblast, but I prefer it for everyday miles. It has a lot of bounce to it, and it has a plate, so that's the difference. Yes, it has a plate, but I personally don't choose shoes based on whether or not they have a plate. I choose them based on the ride experience and where they fit into my training. This is a shoe that, for the style of training I do, so I just hit 130 miles last week. This is a shoe that can support that high mileage and leave the legs feeling protected. Then another great Superblast competitor, and I actually said in the video, the review I did, it's not a direct Superblast competitor, but another max stack shoe that's doing a similar thing with a different result than the Superblast is the Puma MagMax Nitro here. So a tall stack of this Nitro foam. It's a little bit more of an elevated daily trainer than it is a fast speed training shoe or even a fast long run shoe. I like it more for relaxed miles, similar to the Skyward X, but a little bit less bounce. But one of the best when it comes to comfort and protection with this stack. So these are the 3 shoes that I will be benchmarking the new Glycerin Max against. $225 in the Skyward X, $200 in the Superblast and Superblast 2, and I should have the Superblast 2 in soon, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully, depending on when Running Warehouse sends it out. It's no conspiracy. I think people think it's a conspiracy that I'm holding out. I literally posted the Running Warehouse link and said I'm buying it through this, and a lot of you guys bought it through it too, and then we're all still waiting. So don't blame me. And then Puma MagMax, this is $180. So Glycerin Max is actually going to be $200, same as the Superblast and Superblast 2, more expensive than the MagMax, $25 less than the Skyward X here. So with that, let us open up our guy here. Yes, it is Monday. It certainly is Monday, and let's find a good place to do this because we're getting rained out. All right, top step, got a little bit of protection here. This is going to be as good as any place. Let us see what color we got. Bada boom. Woo! Bada bang. This is clean. This is certainly dad drip for sure. So look at this. All white and gray upper, which I love, and then yellow voltish foam on the inside. And man, so there's been prototypes leaking of this for the past, year, 2 years. It looks every bit as wacky as the prototype. And just the way that this foam looks, this translucent, kind of creamy but clear vibe, it looks a lot different than any other foam that I've seen. And this is a new foam for the Brooks line. They're calling it DNA tuned. It's a supercritical foam. I did look through all the PR stuff they sent over. They didn't say what kind of a compound it was, but they did say it was a dual density foam. So hold on, let me get this right. Something about the bubble size. That was the big thing. Yeah, so they said larger bubble cells or larger cells in the heel, smaller cells in the front. So that's supposed to be a little bit of softer in the heel and firmer in the front, or more responsive in their words, bouncier in the front. And then the specs that they're giving, I think Running Warehouse is going to measure this taller, but the specs that they gave for this guy were 46 in the back, or 45 and change in the back, 39 and change in the front for, what is it, a 6 millimeter drop. So one of the tallest shoes on the market. It looks a little bit more streamlined than the MagMax. Let's take a look here. I mean, these are both highly chunky shoes, but the Glycerin Max does look and feel a little bit more streamlined to me. I mean, we'll see once we throw them on the scale. And the design of it is also pretty cool. It is a different direction for Brooks, but it still looks like a Brooks, but just cooler. There's no weirdness going on with the upper. It is a nice classic training upper. Some good padding. Let's see, the laces are normal. The tongue is padded, so it blends some comfort with hopefully underfoot some bounce. And I'm wondering, at that $200 price point, how versatile is this going to be? Are we going to be able to run some marathon pace in this, or is this really going to be that cruiser that makes it easier to run longer miles? Now, take a look at this as well. Rocker in the front. Man, that is a nice aggressive rocker. Let's compare that to the MagMax. Definitely more of an aggressive rocker than the MagMax. And let's see versus the Skyward X. And the Skyward X, I think, still has it for the rocker here. It's going to be hard for any of these shoes to beat the Skyward X. This is my favorite shoe of the year. But lots of foam underfoot here. You can see they have the yellow foam wrapped in the white foam. Tall stack, decently wide base, and a comfortable upper. Has all the ingredients to be a solid shoe. And then on the bottom here, look at this, kind of a wacky rubber layout design. Brooks actually has really good rubber. The rubber on the Ghost Max 2 is up there for me with the Puma and Adidas. So it is raining today, which is nice. We'll be able to test out this rubber in the wet weather conditions right out of the box. And man, pushing this in, it is a soft feeling foam. Not as soft as the New Balance foams, and I've said this before, but you can't have almost 50 millimeters of stack and have a foam be as soft as fresh foam, and you can see it's not a super flexible shoe. This is going to be no flexibility, no ground feel whatsoever, but decently soft. Definitely feels softer than the Superblast, Skyward X, or MagMax Nitro. So maybe this will be the softest of the Super Max stack shoes. But with that, let's throw this on the scale and see how it weighs in against some of these competitors. Kobe. All right, man, the wind is in and out. We're pulling ourselves through today. The rain is coming down, but we got the Brooks Glycerin Max, so we got to get up and party. 333.5 grams. That's another heavy boy. I don't know what I was going on about this. It doesn't feel as heavy. Let's throw these other guys on the scale for comparison here. So Hoka Skyward X, another tall stack shoe, about the same amount of stack, but you got the carbon fiber plate in here. Exactly the same weight, 333.5 or 334. So if you've tried the Skyward X, the Glycerin Max will be the exact same on foot. And this is what I'm saying about the weight isn't everything, and also the technology isn't everything. For me, it's more about the ride experience, and one has a plate, one doesn't, but they're coming in at the same exact weight. The specs are pretty much the same exact thing, and we'll see how the ride experiences are, but I would put these two shoes in the same category, and I'm not going to choose the Glycerin Max over the Skyward X just because one has a plate and one does not. I've said this before, but the body cannot tell whether or not there's a plate in a shoe. The body cannot tell whether or not there's a carbon plate or a plastic plate. What we can tell is the rigidity of the platform, how much compliance is there, how much resilience is there, or in other words, how soft is it, how bouncy is it, how does it respond at different paces. Those are the things that when we are running faster or running slower, we can tell about a shoe. And depending on our mechanics, there's going to be differences in how these shoes perform. But just because one shoe has a plate and the other doesn't, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. That's not how I pick my shoes. It's never how I pick my shoes. And it's not inherently bad to run in one shoe because it has a plate. It's not inherently good to run in another shoe because it does not have a plate. And that was one of the things that's always bothered me about the Superblast love. People are obsessed with this shoe simply because there's no plate in it. That does not make it a morally superior choice to something like the Skyward X simply because there's no plate in it. If you like the ride experience of this, that's great, but it doesn't mean you're a healthier runner because you don't run in a plate. Anyway, Superblast is a very lightweight shoe. It has nothing to do with the plate. It has everything to do with the type of foam that they've used in here. And again, this is the Superblast Original. It's also a size 11, so half a size bigger than all these other shoes here. This comes in at 265 grams. So this is full race foam. This is Asics' old version of race foam. Again, the Brooks Glycerin Max. This is a new version. It's a training foam, DNA tuned. So we'll see how it runs, but I'm guessing this is going to be a little bit more comfort oriented than the Superblast, which is more that speed, long time on feet shoe. And then last here, let's throw the MagMax on the scale. This guy is another heavy boy coming in at 318 grams. So not as heavy as the Glycerin Max and the Skyward X, but a lot heavier than the Superblast. So quick comparison. Here again, you can see MagMax a little bit wider than the Glycerin Max. It also just looks taller. I think it's wrapping the foot around. Let's look at the Glycerin Max versus the Superblast here. Pretty similar, and the specs on paper are actually pretty similar. So let's get this thing. Actually, hold on. Before we get it on foot, QA check. QA check on the other foot. Ooh, 325.5 grams. Brooks is usually spot on. So there's a pretty big difference here of 8 grams. It's not going to make a difference in the ride experience, but I'm wondering if that has something to do with the almost prototype nature of this shoe, if they're still dialing in the manufacturing process of this foam, because it is a different manufacturing process. It is a brand new foam. I'm wondering if the variance has something to do with that, the DNA tuned versus the DNA loft and flash. And it also just looks, you can see in here, you can see these little spongy things in the yellow. It looks like a completely different foam than anything that I've seen. Also, this overlay is a little bit funky, but with that, let's lace this thing up. I'm eager to get some miles in it. I want to see how it fits. Brooks shoes are usually pretty comfortable, but let's see if that's the case. All right, lacing up the Glycerin Max here. And by the way, this shoe has very little to do with the regular Glycerin, which is why I didn't even bring the regular Glycerin out here. It is not related to that shoe whatsoever. The foam is different. The drop is different. If anything, this would be a Ghost Max because it also has that moderate drop. But they're calling it the Glycerin Max, I guess because the Glycerin is a famous nameplate. I would have probably decided to call this something different. Also because most of us associate the Glycerin with being that mom's favorite daily trainer shoe. But they've decided to call this the Glycerin Max. Feels nothing like the Glycerin on foot. And man, so very high up off the ground here. Let's see, big rocker in the front. Let's get the Skyward X on foot. Also, I have to say, I really like the way that this looks, the design of this shoe. Brooks is doing a nice job evolving their design language. I like the Ghost Max. I like this. I wouldn't be walking around in the Skyward X. Now, that is the one thing about the plates, It doesn't make sense to me, but I just do not like walking in plated shoes. I have something, it just feels weird. That's the one area where the plates do matter. You will not catch me walking around in a plated shoe. All right, it's a little walk test here. So interestingly, the Skyward X is a little bit of a smoother rocker, and the Glycerin Max is more about just this aggressive rocker up at the front. It is super aggressive. It almost reminds me of the Hyperion Max 2. And I think it's going to provide a fast toe off, but Skyward X feels a little bit smoother. Let's see how these translate on the jog here. Let's do a little jog test. Oh man, just walking down here, the soft comfort under the Glycerin Max forefoot is super nice. Yeah, this foam is really nice and forgiving. Also, squishier than I would expect. Look how flexible this is with a shoe that's this stacked. Definitely feels more comfortable and forgiving, at least on the walk, than the Skyward X. And man, is this a tall stack of foam. So, little jog test here. Hoka Skyward X, my current favorite Max Stack cruiser shoe, versus the brand new Warren Buffett certified Glycerin Max. And it really still does have that prototype look, huh? I like what they've done. They've given it that raw, unfinished look in the midsole. It's cool. All right, little jog test in the rain. So very similar vibe between these two, but the Skyward X in the forefoot, a lot bouncier. This rocker just felt like it was popping me off. And I don't even think it's necessarily the rocker, but just the polyether black amide or the race foam combined with the stiffening of the plate makes this a super bouncy ride. This was giving me just a little bit more comfort and squish maybe, but I almost never have any issues with the upper. I felt like the back of this upper, something about it is digging into my Achilles right now still on the left shoe here, even just standing. So I'm gonna have to fix that. That would be a bummer if this shoe were ruined by an upper issue, especially because it looks so comfortable. But there is something weird going on down here with the upper. So let's get this on foot. Plan for this run 8 to 10 miles. I ran 130 miles last week, so I'm pretty tired, I think. I don't know. Mentally, I'm tired. Physically, I feel fine. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we feel this morning. 8 to 10 miles in the Glycerin Max is going to be a good one. It's just one of those days where just nothing is quite clicking. You guys ever have those mornings where everything just feels 7% more annoying than it should? That's this morning. And this upper is just contributing to that. So, let's see. Hopefully a retie will solve it. Maybe I had it tied too tight. I'll try to loosen it up. That's weird. Issues usually happen when these uppers are too loose. But I'm wondering if there's something about it. I mean, it does have a stiff heel counter, but no stiffer than other training shoes. Skyward X literally has a plastic piece back there, so I'm not sure what it is. Hopefully that's the type of issue that will just resolve itself as we start actually running in the shoe. But in terms of the fit and feel, this is true to size. It's forgiving, decently wide, especially in the front of the toe box. It's high volume. There's a lot of volume up here, actually. I'm not going to be knocking my toes against the front of it in my 10.5. And it's overall a comfortable fit. Upper has some nice padding on it. Similar to the Skyward X, you can tell they went for comfort here. And I'm wondering if that's why they chose the Glycerin nameplate, because then the expectation is this is a comfort shoe, it's not a speed shoe. If they chose something more aggressive, people would expect it to be a speed shoe. I'm putting it in that Superblast competitor category just because of the price point, right? 200 versus 200, but it is time to get our miles in. 8 to 10 in the Glycerin Max. All right. Early overreaction here. This feels way more normal than I was expecting. For a shoe that's measuring in at the tallest stack of any non-plated shoe, or any shoe, maybe the Prime X Strong is a little taller, this feels way more normal. This feels like maybe a touch softer Ghost Max. And maybe it's gonna need some time to break in, but I'm really not getting anything out of this ride experience here that feels that much different than anything else. It's a lot of cushion and a lot of protection, but the Ghost Max 2 is as well. So maybe it will come alive with some more miles or some faster pace, but so far it feels a little bit normal. And for $200, I want more than normal. All right, first straightaway here. I'm gonna try to get the legs going a little bit, see if some pace will activate it. And it does feel like these are coming alive a touch as I'm picking up the pace. So it might be like the Superblast where you gotta get them going to get the benefit of all the stack. And I'm wondering also if this might be a nice 4-hour marathon shoe with the comfort. And that's the one thing I feel Brooks is missing in their lineup. So potentially that plays that role. So mile 1, that was a 7:46. I'm probably gonna hang out at recovery pace. I am absolutely smashed today. I'm just not feeling it whatsoever. So I'm gonna hang out at recovery pace, just cruise. This shoe feels nice for that. It does feel nice for that. It's not blowing my mind, but it is very comfortable. And it has the protection of a lot of the Max Stack shoes, but with a little bit more bounce. So this might just turn out to be the best version of a Max Stack recovery shoe, at least in my rotation. And the mileage will get you though. That's what happens when we push up to 130 per week. It's no joke. All right, we're almost at mile 2 here. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is a day where I would have preferred to stay in bed, sleeping. I feel pretty trash. I'm not sick, I just feel completely wiped. The high mileage got me, and there's this perception, I think people think it's easy for me to run high mileage. It's not easy. It's never easy. I've just figured out a way to get it done. And that's what part of it is. On these days where we don't feel like it, we just do it anyway. Yeah, mile 2, 7:40. I can already tell though, despite my initial hesitancies on the shoe, 2 miles in, this is gonna be a good one for high mileage. A lot of protection, some good bounce, and no weirdness. That upper issue that I was mentioning
before. That's pretty much gone at this point. I don't feel it, which tends to happen. And there's nothing that's too distracting about the ride. The construction is comfortable. The softer foam in the heel is really nice. And then I am getting some good pop from the forefoot foam. So this might just be another great mileage eater. Not as bouncy as the Skyward X, but it has that long distance cruiser vibe. This is like the Toyota Land Cruiser of running shoes. You see the Brooks logo? It's not flashy. You're not gonna turn your head a second time. But if you know, you know, man. So I'm almost at mile 3 here. And the way they've done this dual foam, it's a little strange, the feeling of it, because the forefoot is a lot firmer. It's significantly firmer than the heel. And I can feel that as I'm pushing off. And at my relaxed pace, and at my size, I wish it were maybe 5% softer, at least this far into the run. But I'm sure as we get going, things will soften up, and especially for bigger runners, this is not gonna bottom out. And it's probably not gonna feel too mushy. The heel is pretty soft though, and that's why you add a plate into some of these tall shoes, but I don't think this needs a plate. So that was mile 3, 7:36 pace. We're just gonna keep chipping away. I said this yesterday, some runs are survival mode. I'm just in a survival mode period of training right now. We're gonna have these periods where everything feels tough. Getting out of bed feels hard. Making coffee feels hard. I didn't even make the coffee this morning. Charles did. Thank you, Charles. We just gotta keep going, man. You got two options: quit or keep going. We're gonna keep going. There's gonna be those times where everything just feels difficult. I have to take the battery out of this GoPro, open the battery door, take it out, put it back in every time I want to shoot a segment right now, because I don't know what happened. It's just bugging out. But that's not gonna stop us. We gotta turn ourselves into the type of person who gets sick at the thought of not getting it done. We can't be on our A game. We can't be throwing 101 mile per hour fastballs every day. But you know what? We're gonna step up to the mound and give it what we got. And some days that's good enough, because we can fight to tomorrow. And then when we get to tomorrow, we're gonna do it again and again and again and again until wherever we want to go. It's never easy. It is never easy. But when you reframe the mindset and you stop treating the things that are important to you as optional, you stop thinking about stuff as habits, you start thinking about these things as requirements, that's when it looks easy. That's why people say I make the 100 miles a week look easy, because I just bang them out. It's because it doesn't matter how I wake up feeling, I'm gonna get it done. It's a requirement. All right, that was mile 5, 7:35 pace. The shoe feels good. Coming back to what I said initially, it's not mind-blowing. There's nothing about the ride that's amazing. It's just comfortable, good impact absorption, and hopefully it will last a long time because it's Brooks, but this foam is not battle tested, so that's one thing we'll have to see. But absolutely nothing objectionable about the shoe whatsoever. Similar to the Glycerin, it's just not blowing my mind either. All right, I'm on a straightaway here, mile 6, locked into a really nice groove with these. So it seems that they take some finesse, but man, this feels good. The bounce is good. Feels like they're opening up a bit more, so it is possible that they're gonna need some braking, because this is a different feeling ride now than it was right out of the box. Also, I'm probably going closer to a 7 flat pace versus 8. All right, we just hit mile 7. That was a 7:18 uphill. And I was feeling like I had no fight in me today. I still don't feel like I have a lot of fight. But the shoe is helping me battle on. And that's all we can ask for in a shoe. We want a tool for the job that makes it a bit easier to do whatever we need to do. And today, we're looking to get mileage, and the shoe is making the miles more comfortable, more fun, maybe even more relaxing. It is a nice relaxing shoe. Alright, we just hit mile 8. I actually just considered taking a left up here to bang down my 12 mile loop. I'm not going to do that, just in the interest of time. But I'm feeling much better now than when we started, and that's all I can ask for out of a good shoe. So this is a good shoe. This is going to be a great one for time on feet. We're about an hour of the way in, and I just want to keep going. The ride experience still isn't mind-blowing, but it's just nice, comfortable, bouncy, good pep, smooth. It's the type of shoe that could trick me into thinking I'm excited to run on a day when I'm not. And sometimes that can make it good, great. Now I'm on the straightaway here. There's definitely another gear to this shoe as well. I really want to try to recover today and not be banging 5:40 pace miles. But once we get back into the neighborhood, I may have to throw at least one surge in here to see how this does below 6 minutes. All right, I just got down to 6:10 pace for maybe 4 minutes right there. And then I peeled back, so my legs are feeling smashed. But this shoe has that gear, for sure. I might be able to throw down some, I don't know, marathon pace 10 miles in this, something like that. So it feels like I'm running on top of a tennis ball when I pick it up in the forefoot in the best way possible. So it has good bounce for sure. Yeah, we're on mile 9.3 here. We'll jog it back to the crib.
All right, guys. We are finished with our morning miles. 10 miles, 7:20 pace, 1 hour, 13 minutes, 57 seconds. And I always say, man, these Monday morning runs, they're a tone setter for the week. So I'm glad we got 10. That was
right on target. We're going to be right on target to get our weekly mileage, and we're going to have a little bit of gas left in the tank. That's my feeling for this week. We're going to execute all our workouts perfectly, no faster than needed, no more mileage than needed. We're not in the hero stage of marathon training. We're not trying to be a hero. We're in the survive and make it through phase. And 10 miles at a 7:20 pace after a 130-mile week, that's not bad for a recovery run or a aerobic base building run. And dude, this is a good shoe. This might even be a great shoe. This has me excited to put it on again. It's comfortable, it's fun, and it's normal. Those are the three key attributes of the shoe. Look at the shoe from the top. This doesn't look like anything else than you would find walking into a Dick's Sporting Goods. It looks like the standard Glycerin. It looks like the Ghost from the top. Now, when you turn on the side, yes, it has this gigantic stack of foam, but I still think walking around the grocery store, I don't think very many people would stop to pause and look at what's on my feet. Now, if I were walking around Harris Teeter with this thing, that's a whole different story. It's bright. The stack looks crazy. Now, I know this isn't a muted colorway, but a Brooks is a Brooks is a Brooks. So, awesome shoe. The 4 to 5 millimeter drop here, it's actually, 5 to 6 millimeter drop is nice. I do think we're getting some softening up of the foam here, but look at this. It doesn't compress all the way like some of these softer foams do. And look at this. It's softer here, and then when we get up to the forefoot, a little bit firmer. Now, the one thing I did want to say, let's turn this around. Watch this. There is a little bit of weirdness with the Brooks naming. So you have the Glycerin Max. I pulled out all these shoes here. You have the Ghost. You have the Ghost Max and the Glycerin. Now, if we were to say, let's leave the Ghost named the Ghost, the Glycerin would actually be the Ghost Max. Both of these shoes have the 10 millimeter drop. It's just that the Glycerin is higher stack. That would mean the Ghost Max should be called the Glycerin, and then the Glycerin Max should be the Glycerin Max. But in the current setup, it's a little bit confusing because the standard Ghost, that's 10 millimeter drop, and then the Ghost Max, that's 6 millimeter drop. Standard Glycerin is 10 millimeter drop, and the Glycerin Max is the one that's the moderate drop, the 6 millimeter drop. So initially they just had the Ghost and the Glycerin, both 10 millimeter shoes, and the Glycerin having the more additional stack. Then they introduced the Ghost Max, and that's where it got all wonky. They probably should have called the Ghost Max something different entirely, because it's not really a Ghost Max, and then that forced them to call the Glycerin Max the Glycerin Max. I would have called this something new entirely, but there's a lot of confusing shoes and names. I will say the new foam in here is considerably different than any of the other foams. These are all actually the same foam, and I really do like this DNA Loft V3 that's across the Ghost Glycerin and Ghost Max 2, but the DNA Tuned is a nice addition as well. It's not mind-blowing, but it's got some pep, it's got some comfort, and it's got some fun. So I got to figure out where to do the breakdown. But I'm going to go shower and then we can get it in. All right, I told you this is one of those days where everything is just kind of off. It's raining. I'm not in my normal breakdown spot. I'm just chilling on the porch in a very comfortable chair. But that's the vibe of the Glycerin Max here. It's like chilling on the porch in a comfortable chair. It's like riding in a nice, finely tuned air suspension Toyota Land Cruiser. It's comfortable, it's fun, it's bouncy, it gets the job done, but it takes the edge off a little bit, and that's what I was saying when we were coming back into the neighborhood. Not every run is going to be great, but some of these shoes that give us something different can turn a bad run or can turn a lackluster morning into something fun and enjoyable. And that's exactly what the Glycerin Max, I was going to say Glycerin Max 2. Glycerin Max 1 here did today. Let's throw up the splits somewhere. I have no idea where I'm going to throw them up because my body is placed a little bit differently in the frame today. And that's the theme of the video. It's not always going to be
easy and smooth, and we're going to have the same exact stuff. We just got to figure out a way to get it done. So we did 10 miles in the Glycerin Max, and I almost want to call it the Glycerin Max 2. And what I've been thinking is this should be the Ghost Max 2 Max. That's what it feels most similar to in the Brooks lineup, because for this 10-mile run, it locked me into that 7 flat to 740 pace range. It felt good there. It had some pep. It had some bounce. It's a little bit softer and a bit more fun than the Ghost Max 2, but very similar character to that shoe with the rocker, with the protection, and the general comfort vibe of this shoe. So if we're thinking about this $180 to $225 training shoe market, Cloud Monster Hyper, Hoka Skyward X, Asics Superblast, Puma MagMax Nitro. I was looking because they're all over there. They all are trying to offer something a little bit different, and to justify, especially jumping up to $200, you have to over-index in something. You have to have something that makes you stand out versus the competitors. And for the first 6 miles of this run, I wasn't quite sure that this shoe has that, and I'm still not 100% sold that this is a $200 shoe. But if we're thinking about what differentiates this versus all those other shoes, it's the comfort, it's the fun, and it's that normal vibe. This is, without a doubt, the most comfortable out of all those $180 to $225 shoes. The MagMax Nitro is also very comfortable, but this has a little bit of a softer feel to it. And jumping to the third thing I said, that normal character, the MagMax doesn't feel too normal on foot. It does feel like a lot of foam. Something about that shoe feels not necessarily heavier, but just like more on foot. This felt, even though it's heavier than the MagMax Nitro and heavier than, I think, all of those shoes, just as heavy as the Skyward X, it feels more streamlined. It feels more streamlined than the Skyward X. It feels more streamlined than the MagMax. It doesn't have the same weird compression feel as the Superblast that I didn't like, where I was fighting against the foam. It feels like a normal shoe, and that's what the magic of it is. That's what Brooks has been able to accomplish with this shoe. Even though it's not giving me as much bounce as the Skyward X, it is giving me a little bit more of a comfortable ride, and I don't have to think too much about what's on my foot. So as we're getting up into this $180, $200, $225 category, and then when we jump into the race shoes, oftentimes we have to think about what's on our foot more, because if it's a Vaporfly, it's narrow, it's fast, it's aggressive. Even if it's a Hoka Cielo X1, there's a lot of bounce to it, but it feels different than anything else out there. Because this has a little bit more of that standard vibe to it, I could just zone out and I wasn't thinking too much about what's on my foot. Now, the reason I did like the Skyward X a lot was because the ride is so different than anything else out there. And that's not quite what I'm getting out of this shoe. It's not blowing me away. So if you are looking for a completely new ride, if you want something funky, if you want something different, this isn't quite probably going to do it for you. It's great in protection. It's great in comfort. It does have that nice smooth roll in the bounce. It looks clean, but it's like an elevated Ghost Max 2, or like a lot of other Max Cushion shoes you've tried, just giving a little bit more bounce to it, less of that squishy feel. So I think this is going to be great if you want something comfortable for everyday miles or for long runs. This is probably going to be an excellent long run shoe, and it's especially promising because I picked it up there on the last few miles and I dipped down to 640, 650 pace, and it performed really well. It has bounce. It almost feels like there's an inflated tennis ball. I guess all tennis balls are inflated, but a tennis ball right under the forefoot here that I was jumping right on top of as I was picking up the pace. It feels awesome. The stability is good in the back. The grip was solid as well. So overall, the package comes together nicely. So it's not going to change your life, but neither did the Superblast, and that's a $200 shoe. So I'm looking forward to getting more testing on this shoe. I may or may not do some more runs in it this week, so stay tuned for that. But right now it's time for recovery, and then maybe I'll get back out there today. Either way, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Glycerin Max. This is a good shoe. I'm excited to get more miles in this shoe. I'll see you tomorrow. Quick refuel. This is our lunch. It's Monday. We've got to keep it easy and simple. I just need some calories. So sourdough bread from the farmer's market. Cut it in half. Toasted it. Shout out to Team Rose Bread with the buffalo chicken patty, the vegan buffalo chicken patty. A little bit of vegan cheese. Some arugula. Might throw some more arugula on top there. Just some quick calories so we can get back out there for the second run and mash. So it's about time for the second run, and it is still windy and rainy. It actually hasn't rained
in a while, which is why I was struggling to find a breakdown spot because the weather has just been so nice. But we're going to get in our second run regardless. And it was a little bit, let's brighten this up. Yeah, it was a little bit wet out there this morning, and this did well, but we'll see how it does versus something like the MagMax, which we all know Puma grip is elite when it comes to wet weather performance. So second run, I'm going to get ready, and then we can take these out for afternoon mileage. Oh man, it is really coming down now. And it actually feels a little bit cold. I might go and grab a t-shirt. I thought I had a t-shirt out here. Oh man, this is what I'm saying. It's not even a question whether or not I'm going to do a second run. The only question is what pair of shoes I'm wearing. Because we got to hammer in the consistency. Just hammer it in. And man, this is a comfortable shoe. This has got to be up there with one of the most comfortable shoes I've tried this year. It's not 1080 levels of softness or more V5 or Bayless levels of softness, but that's also why I like it, and that's why I liked the original Ghost Max. This is almost like the best version of what that Ghost Max could be. So plan today, probably 6 to 8 more miles. If it's really coming down and I'm feeling miserable, I will cut it at 6. I was just peeling this to see if it was, I thought it looked like it was peeling off. It's not peeling off. Alright, I'm going to grab a shirt and then we can go. This is ugly. Winter is coming. Oh man, this is just... It's one of those days, man. It had to be rainy today, didn't it? It's just one of those days. And I think it's time to say goodbye to this beautiful, clean, pure gray colorway, because it's not going to be pure when we get back. But it's probably still going to be comfortable. But we'll see how this grip does. I've been impressed with the Brooks grip this year, but I've not put it through a super rainy day like this. So this will be the test. Let's do it. Another 8 miles, 8.3 miles, 6:49 pace, 56 minutes, 33 seconds. I don't feel that I ran a single mile today. I told you this morning, I had no desire to run. And I don't feel that I've run at all. The system ran all those miles for me. That's why we're out here for the second run of the day. That was purely the system doing the work for me. I didn't have to think about whether or not we were going to come out here. And this is a great shoe. This is a great shoe. It's normal, but fun and comfortable. And I was cruising at 6:20, 6:30 pace for those last few miles there. And this had get up and go. It felt like I could have pushed the pace even more. Yeah, this is probably going to shape up to be one of the best high mileage and marathon training shoes on the market. And because it performs even better for me at that 6:20, 6:30 pace, if you are a bigger runner, so I'm 6'2", 160 pounds. If you are bigger than I am, running 8-minute, 9-minute, 10-minute, 11-minute paces, or doing walk-run, you're going to love this thing. And this is probably one of the best, if not the best, 4-hour marathon shoe for bigger runners looking for something comfortable and supportive. So with those 2 runs today, we were on our feet for well over 2 hours. Probably the most comfortable shoe that I have now. It's comfort dialed up to the max with bounce. And that's the difference between this and the Superblast. And this is what a lot of brands get wrong about the Superblast competitor shoes. The Superblast is all about the lightweight. It's about the lightweight and the bounce and evading the typical trade-offs of running shoes. This doesn't quite evade the trade-offs because you still have the weight. But this new foam is special. It's special for training. It's comfortable with the bounce. And by the way, this grip here, this is Adidas and Puma levels. I was not slipping at all. It was coming down really good. It still is. And this is one of the coldest, this is probably the coldest I've been since winter. It was cold out there on the run. I still need to take the shirt off. The shoe performed great in the wet. So awesome for the wet weather. It's comfortable. It's supportive. It's fun. It's a shoe that I want to just put a lot of miles in. I think this is going to be a crowd pleaser. The one thing I do want to note in terms of a drawback, because of how they've tuned this foam, if you are an aggressive heel striker, it's possible at slower paces this might have a negative drop feeling for you, meaning it feels like you have to fight against the midfoot and the forefoot to roll through the stride because of that lower drop. The heel compresses more than the forefoot. That's an issue that some people had in the Rebel V4. Other than that, it's an awesome shoe. I really have no complaints with it. Other than the price, $200, that's a little steep. I wish it were $180. But this is a great shoe. I'm really happy with it. Brooks knocked it out of the park. 18 miles. And I feel like we could keep going. But no hero behavior this week. We're just going to be chopping wood, letting the system do the work, and staying hungry. That's the Supwell difference. We're hungry. We'll be back tomorrow.
One more thing. I'm not sure if you guys saw that big thing of mud that was right up here, but I just cleaned it off. Some Blue Dawn, the soap. A Blue Dawn and a damp paper towel. That'll have your shoes looking right. We just ran through the rain, mud. I just wiped them down with a damp paper towel and some Blue Dawn on any areas of the upper that are dirty, and that'll get you right. Hold on, let me show you. This is what I'm talking about. This is what they use to clean the ducks. Blue Dawn. And the last thing I wanted to say was Glycerin Max. I get it now, the glycerin thing, because of the comfort, and also with that 4-hour marathon shoe. For a while, I've said Brooks doesn't have something to upgrade people into who are buyers of the glycerin who want something that's going to be a little bit better for their first race, their first marathon. This is that shoe. This is going to be perfect for people who like the cushion feel of the Glycerin and want something a little bit more fun, a little bit bouncier. They don't have to go to the Superblast now. They don't have to go to the SC Trainer V3. They don't have to go to the Saucony Endorphin. This is the shoe. Not as light as some of those shoes, but if your main buying criteria is comfort, bang.